I was watching a video the other day. Actually, it was yesterday. And the famous motivational speaker, so called, I don't know, some people call him Jahil Kadeem. I don't want to say that. I would call him Jahil Azim, maybe. Yeah, but his real name is Sahil Adeem. And I think he is a bloody warmonger. You know what is warmonger? Are people who just are so much wanting to have a war, and to them war is the only solution. And somehow I think he is the real representative of the Muslim ideology of jihad. When people like softer people like Javed Ahmad Ghamdi and other people, they talk about this, that the whole definition of jihad is not what the rest of the world perceive, and then they try to blame and criticize the Muslim teachings. People like Sahil Adeem at least have the guts and the courage and the ability to admit to the real teachings of Islam on jihad. And he's one person who's actually somehow is pushing the agenda that Pakistani troops and Pakistani forces should go to Gaza and assist the Palestinian in the war against Israel. And his whole ideology is like freakingly, you know, hilarious, dangerous, and I mean, he's trying to throw the whole nation into his ideology and his teaching of jihad, which is true in fact, but it doesn't work in the modern age. But as I always say, that Islamic teachings, they don't change with time, with culture, with the modern development, with liberalism, and the peace accords that people have. They just stay the same. For since kids in school and in college and then in the university, we learn only about this, that Islam is a religion which is for the generations to come. But technically speaking, it is a religion which likes to stay and stick to the same ideology, and that is one thing which is the success of the religion. And that's what I said in one of my previous videos, that Islam is the fastest growing religion. And there are certain factors. One of the factors is that the people who believe in Islam and Islamic teaching, they are not willing to change. And Islamic teachings are actually very strict. And if you are a Muslim, and then you are bound to follow those teachings, and that those teachings cannot be changed. Those teachings cannot be softened. Those teachings cannot be modernized. Those teachings cannot be tamed. Those teaching has to remain the same. And whatever people try to soften the image of Islam and the Muslim world by changing the narration and the meaning of the context of all those verses and hadiths about jihad, still the teaching will remain the same. And Sahil Adeem is a true representative of real Islam. So listen to what he has to say.
लोगों की जो प्रेजेंट डे एंड एरा के अंदर, आज के दिन के अंदर, जो पाकिस्तान की 25 करोड़ आवाम है, वो बेचारी इतनी मायूस है। आवाम को क्या काम है? मैंने कहा उनसे आवाम को कहा है।
This is the pink salt recipe that took me from 179 to...
Okay, well, we have to... Okay, let's do it again.
आवाम है, वो बेचारी इतनी मायूस है। आवाम को क्या काम है? मैंने कहा उनसे आवाम को कहा है कि फ़लस्तीन जाएगी। अब आर्मी की बात करें। सर, आपने वो तो कहा था ना कि हर जुमे हर मंदिर सारे लोगों को मोबिलाइज किया। इन फिरका जो मज़ाहिब हैं, लीडरान हैं, इन्होंने हर एक को कहना है पास कराने के लिए। बस दैट्स अबाउट इट। इतना ही काम था इनका, खत्म हो गया। क्या बिल है भला? क्या आर्मी जाएगी? क्या आर्मी जाएगी? अच्छा, इनका काम, आप लोग ही मोबिलाइज हो रहे हैं। बस ठीक है, चलें, ठीक है, गुड इनफ। एक पॉइंट हो गया। अब हमने यानी बिल पास कराना है। और आपने पॉइंट दूसरा बताना है कि हम पाकिस्तान आर्मी क्यों नहीं जा सकते। अभी तक तो यू हैवंट कन्विंस्ड मी, नॉट यू हैवंट स्क्रैच्ड द सरफेस। एक हमारा मिलिट्री इंबैलेंस बहुत ज्यादा है, ठीक है, हमारे से भी कम है। हम जियो स्ट्रेटेजिक लोकेशंस, जियो स्ट्रेटेजिक पूरी ओवरऑल हिस्ट्री, और तीन जगहों पे हमें चाहिए। हम खाली उर्दू में जंगी मशकें भी कर लेना तो आधा काम हो जाता है। मैं मैन टू मैन फ्रंटल कॉम्बैट की तो बात नहीं कर रहा हूं मैं।
अगर हम पाकिस्तान की फौज को भेजने की बात करें, ग्लोबली जो आपका
क्या कौन इंटरसेप्ट करेगा मुझे? सऊदी अरब मुझे मेरे F-16 में बीच में से गोली मार देगा?
तो आपके F-16 वहां तक अगर एग्जाम्पल चल
मैं एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ, आपने नहीं, आप मेरे
आपका
पास
आपका
वो
अपना
चीज़
मुल्क है, इतनी देर में अगर भारत घुसा था पीछे से, फिर
अच्छा उस वक्त क्या करेंगे? भारत घुसा था तो लड़ाई करेंगे या कहेंगे हमारी बेटियां ले जाओ?
डिफेंड कर रहे हैं ना अपने
नहीं,
आप
आप डिफेंड करेंगे?
हमारी बेटियां ले जाओ. Come on, look at this. Something like this guy is really a piece of shit. I really don't understand his philosophy. I really don't understand his agenda. I think he is on a mission. I think he is on a mission to destroy Pakistan. He's convincing. He's trying to convince the younger generation to throw themselves into war, and then you know bring a new hatred toward Pakistan. That's the word that I was looking for. Like, Pakistan is already in a very precarious situation. Poverty is there, jobs are not there, loans are there, debts are there. I mean, you name a problem in Pakistan is into that problem. Inflation is there, and then you have terrorism there, and you have a border situation there, and you have war with Afghanistan, and then you have war with India, and then you have problems in Balochistan, and then you have problem in KP. And on top of all this, he wants Pakistan army to go and fight in Gaza, in Palestine against Israel. And then he's talking about, like, if India attacks, then they will take away our daughters. Like, how this thing is going to be described and perceived. I mean, how can he conceive all these ideas? And this is how I say, like, this is very dangerous line of argument that he's having with this podcaster. And this is the way he always talks about. I mean, he is talking about a radical Islam, he's talking about a fanatic Islam, he's about a jihadist Islam, and he is one person who is always talking about war. He's a bloody warmonger, and his desire to have a war with the rest of the world and make Islam become the number one religion and community in the world through war. That's how he wants to operate. And I don't know how people are going to tackle with it. I don't know. Nobody wants to stop him. Nobody has given any consideration to what he's talking about. The reason, to me, is obvious, that since he's talking about Islam, and since he's a Muslim, and he is actually describing the teachings of Islam, so nobody dares to touch him. Nobody wants to stop him, because stopping him would mean stopping Islam. That's like the referendum of famous Ziaul Haq. Do you want Islam in this country? Yes. Then if you want Islam in this country, I'll be your president. Okay, fine, done. So you can do anything on the name of Islam in Pakistan and in most of the Muslim worlds. And this guy has a parallel agenda going on, and his agenda is to throw Pakistan into another war, a war for which there is going to be no end, a war for which Pakistan doesn't have the capacity, the ability, and the money. When in DGISPR's conference, this Air Force officer, he stood up, he says, "Kafir hai to shamsheer pe karta hai bharosa, momin hai to bete bhi ladta hai sipahi." Literal translation is that, yeah, okay, if you are an infidel, you depend and you rely upon emanation. And if you are a Mormon, if you are a Muslim, then you just fight on faith. And your faith is JC-10 from China, and JF-17 Thunder, and all the missiles that you borrowed from them. That is your faith. And kafir hai to shamsheer pe karta hai bharosa. And the weapons that you are using, you are getting them from ideal kafirs. I mean, Christians and Jews are also kafir in Islam, but what about the communists? If you have the degrees of kafir, maybe Christians are like at the bottom, Jews could be like in the middle, but what about the communists? And communists are Pakistan's best friends, because they give you faith, and your faith बेतेग भी लड़ता है सिपाही, so you fight on your faith, and your faith is in something that you get from the infidels. And those infidels are your friends because they give you weapons, they give you planes, they give you rockets, they give you missiles, they give you everything. So I think it's all about the vested interest. And one of my videos, I already said that I didn't believe that this war actually happened for solid reason. I think this war just happened because people needed this war to happen because they had their vested interests, and that was Pakistan Army and Indian political parties, leadership. So I think that people like Sahil Adeem, they should be discouraged. The people Sahil Adeem should not be projected, because these people are very dangerous people and they run their own agenda and their own ideology. And I think he's running his own cult right now, and his cult is war. His cult is to take Pakistan back into the dark ages. His cult is to make Pakistan a country where you have all the Sharia laws. You listen to all bullshit that he has to say in all his podcasts, and they're all nonsense things that he talks about. He has no respect for women. He has no respect for the daughters of the country. He thinks everything is all about war, religion, radicalism, and fanaticism. That's all for today. All the best.